How's it going, you guys? David here, and I know it's been a long time since I've uploaded any YouTube videos at all. I won't bore you guys with any of those details. I'm probably most likely gonna make a video addressing that, but for now, I wanted to take a moment to address something that is very near and dear to my heart. I'm here to talk about Star Wars. I know that everybody's getting a little heated and everybody's going on over with The Last Jedi and stuff like that. And, you know, it's going back and forth. People are saying, you know, they like to quote Kylo Ren saying, you know, just let the past die, just move on and all that. And the old fans are like, no, we want to be able to lay everything to rest. Well, we want to end the original trilogy the correct way and all that, and it's just a huge clusterfuck. But okay, let me go ahead and establish my opinion really quick. I didn't like The Last Jedi. I didn't think it was a good film. First of all, like, it really wasn't that good. I'm hearing people say that it was the best film out of the whole saga, and it's not. I don't understand why people do that. Like, as a film by itself, like, just critiquing like the directing, the acting, all of that, the way it looks, I would put it critically, I would put it between the original trilogy and the prequels. Like, it's smack dab in between them. Personally, I would put it underneath Revenge of the Sith. You know, the original trilogy being up top, The Force Awakens, then Revenge of the Sith, then The Last Jedi, and then the last two, the other two prequels. The reason it's below Revenge of the Sith is because Revenge of the Sith, while it's a prequel, and people like to call it the good prequel, but the prequels weren't all that well made. I would put the filmmaking of The Last Jedi at prequel level, but the story didn't satisfy. It really didn't. It did not give us any type of closure. It didn't explain anything. It didn't do anything. And, you know, we all know the character assassination of Luke Skywalker and all that. So, yeah, I would put it below Revenge of the Sith. I don't think I can say it's worse than Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones, but it's definitely worse than Revenge of the Sith. Anyway, so yeah, I'm of that opinion. I don't like The Last Jedi. I've heard all of the critiques of the fans. I've heard all the things that, like, where they try and explain why it's such a good movie, and people are either saying stuff that's just outright wrong or something that I just can't agree with for a multitude of reasons. But I'm not here to discuss or critique the film. I'm not going to break down for you guys every single thing that's wrong with it. The biggest thing that got my attention was the fact that there's this whole movement online as to reboot The Last Jedi, to remove it from canon and to remake The Last Jedi, or, you know, whatever title they would come up with, to allow for a better you know, flow of the trilogy, and then we can end it with Episode 9. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, if for whatever reason Disney decided, okay, let's do that, I am on board. I will do whatever it takes. I will donate to anybody to do it. But I honestly don't think that's gonna happen. But regarding that whole remake The Last Jedi thing, I don't think anything's really gonna come of it, but I believe that the huge response that it's gotten, both negative and positive, although from what I've seen, they're already like at $300 million. Like, it's ridiculous. But I don't know, it seems a little sketchy to me. I think it might be fake, but either way, the fact that, like, it's so big and it's causing a stir, I definitely think Disney took notice. I definitely think Disney's like, what the fuck, and I think they're gonna hopefully change things moving forward. They might not say anything. I don't think they're gonna come out and apologize and say, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. They're not gonna give us a plan, but I definitely think that the response to The Last Jedi and our response that's still ongoing is definitely going to influence the way they do things going forward. But I don't think that's going to be present in this sequel trilogy or in Episode 9. And regarding the sequel trilogy, I think, honestly, I think we as fans and I'm talking to everybody who disliked it. If you're in that band, if you're in that like group that I don't want to call it a bandwagon, because it's not really a bandwagon. It's mostly like all of us just kind of like looking at each other weirdly, like, really, we just saw that shit. If you did not like The Last Jedi, I don't think things are gonna get better. Like, Episode 9 could be a good movie. Even if it is a good movie, it still doesn't, like, unless they're gonna retroactively, like, there's a line like, oh, remember how, like, Luke was trained me on Octu and all that, like, unless they completely use that film to rewrite The Last Jedi, I don't think I'm gonna ever really appreciate the sequel trilogy. And I don't think anything we can do is gonna change, because as soon as Episode 9 is done, Disney, I think they're gonna walk away from the Skywalkers for a while. Because I know that they have 2 sagas in production. One for the guys that did Game of Thrones, which I'm actually looking forward to that one, and Rian Johnson's trilogy. The fact that that dude still has a trilogy is like proof that there is no God. Literally, how do you fuck up that badly and continue to act like a smug piece of shit, getting all kinds of bad PR, bad press, antagonizing the fans, and Disney's like, they don't tell him to shut the fuck up? Like, really? Anyway, so yeah, I think that at this point, there's nothing we can do about the sequel trilogy. So I'm hearing people saying, let's reboot it. I'm hearing people say, hey, let's just remove it from canon. And some people are just like, well, we got what we got. Let's just move on and focus on and hope that the future Star Wars products are up to par, that they're good, that they're respectful. And, you know, I had kind of a thought, and this is kind of like my idea for a fix of the sequel trilogy, which I know is not going to happen no matter what, but I just thought it'd be fun to get the idea out there, maybe get people discussing it. Who knows, maybe something like it can occur. Maybe it'll be in like some kind of comic book or something, because once it's out there, and it's going to hit somebody, somebody's going to get it in their head, and who knows, you know, you really don't know. We really do not know what's going to happen, and I'm hoping that, like, even if I just get one person liking this video and be like, hey, that's a good idea, that's good enough for me. So I think this is a way to keep the sequel trilogy canon, so all the people who enjoyed the sequel trilogy, you still get it, like, it'll still be part of the story. And this is a method of also retconning it completely. And I'm gonna give you guys 4 words, and they're not Star Wars words, but you'll recognize them, because if you guys are like Star Wars fans and nerds and all that, then you guys definitely know this. So say it with me and keep an open mind. Days of Future Past. Total reboot. So, for those of you who don't know where I'm going with this, we keep the sequel trilogy canon. At some point in the future, we make another Star Wars film, and basically all the stuff that occurred in the sequel trilogy will be not known, but they'll be aware of it in the past, and they'll be able to change the timeline. Boom. Alternate universe, alternate timeline, whatever. Alternate storyline. It keeps the sequel trilogy canon because it happened, and it deviates from it because a person in the past saw what happened, and then they changed things. So we can watch the entire saga, and you can still keep the sequel trilogy intact. And you know, you guys can watch it or not, or you guys can completely ignore it. But here's my idea. Like I said, Days of Future Past, this will be Star Wars Episode 10. This will be going back to immediately after Return of the Jedi, because, you know, I think it's dumb that Disney's trying to get away from the Skywalkers, considering that they're the most popular, you know, are they the most popular? I would say they're the most popular era of Star Wars. And people still want to see Luke, you know, especially after the way they treated him in Return of the Jedi and The Last Jedi. Yeah, so I know they're doing a TV show, Jon Favreau, and I'm actually kind of looking forward to that. Jon Favreau knows what he's doing. He's done very good work in the past, and I definitely think he can do justice to our favorite characters. But TV shows and cartoons and books and novels and all that, those are like B canon. Typically, it's whatever happens in the films that we consider to be like, that's it. That's what happened. So, you know, if if something happens in a film that completely contradicts a TV show, generally we'll go with what the film said. And even though we're getting a TV show about immediately after Return of the Jedi, I think we should do that for the film. So what'll happen is basically after they finish episode 9, this will be years from now, maybe 5, 10 years or something like that. Basically we can condense like the entire sequel trilogy into some kind of like foggy memory type flashback thing where everything's happening like all at once, and then boom, we get Luke Skywalker waking up, freaking out. He's like, what the fuck did I just see? And then this will trigger like a journey for Luke, who's like, he's going out and he's like looking for Jedi artifacts and stuff like that, and he's looking around and he realizes that there's still pieces of the Empire left, and some of them went off into the dark regions and some of them went off into these other corners and all that, and we can still get a good conflict out of it. And you know, we can get some Dark Jedi, some Inquisitors or something like that. We can canonize Mara Jade. We can change a lot of stuff with this, because like we can, like, if say we bring in Mara Jade and they hook up and they have a kid, it can be Rey. We can change Rey's origin by virtue of, like, you know, the whole not time travel, but the whole prophecy vision thing. He changed things and he's holding his new baby girl, Luke and Mara, and maybe he's looking at her and he's like, she feels like Rey, like I remember Rey in the future, and this is her, like this is her in the Force or something like that, some kind of BS like that. We don't have to do that. I just personally always thought of Rey as Luke's daughter, and it was really weird that they didn't do that, especially that they're beating you over the head in The Force Awakens that she's Luke's daughter, you know, subtextually. But yeah, so whatever, like we can take this into entirely different routes, and who knows, maybe we can bring in EU characters, like instead of Han and Leia just having Ben, maybe they have Ben and Jaina. Maybe there's Ben and then he has a little brother, Anakin Solo, and we can play around with this and completely change the timeline while simultaneously keeping the sequel trilogy canon. Because if it didn't happen, if the sequel trilogy never happened, then we couldn't retcon it. Like we couldn't, like it would have never, the sequels that I'm planning, that I'm talking about, would never have happened if the sequel trilogy hadn't happened. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like this whole weird time loop thing, you know, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. So yeah, that's an idea that I kind of got in my head. Who knows? Maybe I'll write fan fiction, or some fanfic writer we can hook up and see what we can do. But basically, the sequel trilogy happened, and then at some point in the past, we'll say like 4 or 5 years after Return of the Jedi, Luke has this nightmare, and it's the sequel trilogy. And then he goes off on an adventure that reveals all these secrets, and who knows, maybe he encounters Snoke and some Dark Jedi and some all this stuff, and then we can change things like this. So this is a method, like I said multiple times already, of like, you know, we can maintain the sequel trilogy if you guys really like it, while at the same time we can still go take new avenues and try new things and experiment a little with it. Because, like, you know, I know a lot of people are like, oh, the Star Wars fans are nerds. They're just super mad that their fan fiction didn't come true and blah blah blah, all this BS. And it's like, that's not it. Like, I liked The Force Awakens. The Force Awakens completely deviated from the EU. They stole like little bits and pieces and all that, like, you know, and they kind of dropped like little hints in reference to the EU, but I thought The Force Awakens was a lot of fun. It wasn't a perfect movie, obviously it had its issues. All films have their issues, and I'm not gonna like just say it was perfect and all that, but I definitely thought that it was a good foundation for the sequel trilogy. And The Last Jedi, just honestly, I felt like watching it, like it wasn't that good. I feel like Rian just kind of phoned it in. People are like, oh, the Last Jedi went in new directions. Like, fucking what new direction? What was the new direction? Like, nothing was. It's an old story, you know, an old wizard who needs to be inspired by no, actually, you know what? It felt like a bad fan fiction. It really did. Watching the film, like, we've all read those fan fictions where like there's this upstart Jedi who has to go and teach the old wizened master, like that they need that they need to be a hero again. I mean, how many times like those self-insert fan fictions where the person is like, it's not them, but it's really them, and like they're this badass who's powerful and they know everything, how to do everything, even though they've never been trained, and then they go to learn from the master, but the master is either like, either the master doesn't want to train them, or the master tries to train them, but it turns out they're already so good that they don't need help and all that. And then like Luke was there to just be saved by Rey. It should have been the other way around. Luke should have trained Rey. We could have felt for Rey a little bit, you know, oh wow, she's struggling to learn the ways of the Jedi and all that. That would have gotten rid of a lot of the Mary Sue stuff, which I disagreed with. In The Force Awakens, I did not feel that Rey was a Mary Sue. I understand why people felt that way, but she didn't come across that way. She really didn't. All of her actions really they were backed up by things that we already saw in the film. And she wasn't a Mary Sue in that film. However, in The Last Jedi, she was, because she was running around with Luke, chasing him, trying to get him to train her, and he doesn't train her. And then she goes, and then all of a sudden she's skilled enough to be fighting the Praetorian Guard. Like, that made no sense to me. And, you know, that she like, Rian had a chance to develop Rey's character beyond what she already was, and he didn't. He assassinated Luke's character. I felt so bad for Kelly Marie Tran and Laura Dern. They do not deserve the criticism that they're getting, because I've heard that like Kelly Marie Tran was supposedly bullied off of social media. Like, guys, don't do that, please. Like, they're just actors and actresses, and they're just trying to do their job. I mean, Kelly Marie Tran was probably so excited to be involved with the Star Wars, the project, and it's not her fault that Rian Johnson is like an imbecile. I don't know why he did what he did, and it really wasn't her fault. Like, we shouldn't blame the actors. Blame the writer. He wrote it that way. I don't know why he did it. Like, I've always personally felt that as a writer, if you have to shoehorn in a love story, like a love interest, you're a bad writer. Because that love story between Rose and Finn was definitely shoehorned in there. I did not feel any chemistry between them. There were little signs, and I felt like, because remember in the beginning of the film they were at odds because she thought he was a coward. Like, she was like, oh my god, you're a fucking coward and all this stuff. So when she was warming up to him, I thought she was like, you know what, you're all right. But then all of a sudden she kisses him and she's like, I love you. Like, that's the hallmark of bad writing. It really is. Because you didn't make me believe in the relationship, because there was really no relationship there. So yeah, that's just me ranting a little bit about The Last Jedi. I don't want to do that anymore. I think I've been going on for too long. I already got my idea out there. Basically a Days of Future Past situation in which everything goes to shit, and then somebody gets information from the future, and then they change things. That's my idea. We'll call it Shadows of the Empire. I don't know. What do you guys think? Leave your comments down below. Share this. Get this to the guys at Left Foot Media, freaking Star Wars Theory, all those guys, all those awesome YouTube channels where we talk about Star Wars, because Star Wars is fucking awesome, and Disney, no matter how much it tries to fucking brutalize it, they will not take it from us. Alright, you guys, I'm out. Yeah.